Today I want to show you a new way to make watercolor swatches. They're very pretty and simple to make and can improve your watercolor skills. So let's get started. Usually the swatch cards are made like this or like this. They have a defined space for you to write down information, a box for you to paint inside, and if it's more elaborate, it has separate boxes for different effects. I totally appreciate that they can be really well made, and if you have the time, it could be a relaxing experience. But as someone who has a day job and also want to improve my watercolor skills at the same time, I just can't afford to spend hours and hours to make them. I'd rather use the time to practice. So I came up with a simple way to make the swatch cards, which allow me to practice at the same time. What's unique about it is that each swatch is a mini wash. So by painting a lot of them, you naturally get better at making washes. And since it has color on the front and information on the back, I call them watercolor flashcards. I'm a big fan of flashcards, and it was one of my favorite study methods. I can use it to trigger recall to force me to learn the color name and properties. Also, if I want to compare colors from different brands, it can remove the brand bias and make my judgment more fair. And since it doesn't have any border, I can paint them pretty quickly. So let's see how we can make them. First, I'm gonna cut a bunch of blank cards. I'm using Arch cold pressed 140 pounds because this is the paper I use the most. I don't want to use a paper that is too different from what I usually use because watercolor is transparent. It can look a little bit different if the paper, for example, is bright white versus natural white. Also, the texture of the paper could affect the look of the swatch as well. I find around 4 by 12 cm is a good size. It's big enough for me to paint and write on, and it also is a comfortable size to hold in my hands to flip and to play around with. Any size between 3 by 12 cm and 5 by 13 cm would also be pretty good. This one is too small to create an interesting wash. And this one is too big and it becomes really clumsy. Now I have a bunch of blank cards. I'm gonna write down information on the back and then paint on the front. And I'll do them in batches, about 5 colors at a time. The information I write down includes the name of the color, the series of the paint to indicate the price level, what pigments are in there, and logs, which stands for light fastness, opacity, granulation, and staining ability. For tube colors, this is about how much I need to squeeze out. I want to make sure I use enough because I want to show how strong the color can be if I apply it in full strength. For pan colors, it's best to pre-wet them with a little bit of water so you can easily pick up some thick paint. When I paint, I'm pretty casual and loose. I don't really care about making a perfect gradation or stay in the border. I usually put down some strong paint first, and then rinse the brush, put down some clean water and let the paint flow. Then push around the paint on the paper and add more water. Let it flow, tilt the card, and observe and go by feeling. I treat each card as a mini wash, so if I think it needs more, I add more paint and create more pattern. If it looks good as is, then I stop. So all my cards are different with unexpected patterns. And that's the beauty of watercolor. And that's what gives me inspirations on what kind of washes I can incorporate in my paintings. Now I have piles and piles of them. I just need to punch a hole at the top and then put them on the rings. For now, I'm organizing them by brands and by color so it's easy to find. Wow, that's a lot of cards. I didn't realize I have so many colors. And this will really remind me to use them before I buy more paints. And I hope this video is helpful and inspire you to make your own swatches. If you want to know how paper texture can affect your paintings, check out my video here.